Hey guys, this week's podcast features Ken Legnon, a former personal chef and current sushi chef at Seabar. Ken came down, talked about growing up down south, the start of his culinary path, and how he likes being a chef in Buffalo. Let's get
trying to figure this out for a little bit now.
It's been, 3 months now trying to
Yeah,
pin
it's been a
down
little
day?
bit, yeah. I think we've had our longest podcast from like talking about it to doing it was like Andrew Galarno. It took a good year to get him to come down here. But this is pretty good. I think 3 months isn't too bad. It's not too bad. You were one of the first people because when I started the podcast, I was trying to just think of like friends I knew who were let's see who I can get, and I've known you for a couple years now, probably about 2 years or so.
Yeah, I've been in Buffalo for just about 3 years now.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I know you guys probably met Siri first.
Oh yeah. We met Siri at events and through Krista and all that stuff.
Right.
Yeah,
So I mean, she met Krista the very first week we were here.
Oh wow, that worked out.
Yeah, she got a kind of like an internship writing for.
Oh yeah, that's right, with
Buffalo
the Buffalo
Rising.
Yeah.
While we were still living in Tampa.
Yeah.
And then, so obviously Krista knew you guys, and
yeah,
therefore she kind of
made the match happen.
Yeah.
So, I think people can tell just from your voice that you might not be from Buffalo.
You know, I still think I have a little bit of a southern twang to my voice.
I do.
But
I do.
I've gotten lately that, you know what, I don't sound like I'm from anywhere near the South. Maybe it's due to the fact that I've lived everywhere.
Yeah, you're
between.
kind of a little bit of a globetrotter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A nomad, so to speak.
So you're from Louisiana, right?
Originally, yes, Alexandria, Louisiana.
Okay.
Which is in the exact center of the state.
Okay.
It's 2 hours away from everything important. 3.5 hours away from New Orleans.
So pretty country.
Well, in a sense, yeah. I mean, the Alexandria I grew up in was much smaller than it is now.
Yeah.
Just due to, post-Katrina, everybody kind of fluctuated north. So the population kind of grew by leaps and bounds.
Oh, wow.
I think growing up, the metropolitan area of Alexandria, including more of the more well-known little outlying towns.
Yeah.
Like if you were to consider Alexandria to be the Buffalo.
Yeah.
The Orchard Park and the West Seneca and the Elma and the Lancaster and Depew and all of that.
Yeah.
All of that combined in my hometown was maybe 60,000 people.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's
now it's probably pushing 150,000.
That's a pretty big dramatic increase there.
Yeah, I mean, what was this, 8 years ago now?
Yeah, that's crazy. Were you down there when that happened?
I lived in West Palm Beach at the time.
Okay.
So we actually caught the very early stages of Katrina and Rita when it was still just like a tropical storm.
Yeah.
And then once it hit the Gulf, it became the madness that it was.
Yeah. Were you at all nervous for anybody back there? Or?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I had tons of friends that lived down in that area that, had to leave. Some of them left indefinitely. 12 feet of water in their living room.
Jesus.
Total loss of everything.
Yeah.
And I did know the crazy few that decided to camp out on the roof and get saved by the, the National Guard.
Yeah.
So,
Jesus. So growing up in an area like that, I mean, was that where you first found your love of food, or?
Well, I'm Cajun French by heritage.
Okay.
And my whole ancestral roots we've got our own cuisine.
Yeah,
There's not too many places, or I should say cultures in the United States.
Yeah.
That have their own cuisine, their own music, their own way of living.
Yeah.
So food has always been a very integral part of my growing up.
Yeah.
And my dad worked offshore. My mom was a stay-at-home mom.
Okay.
And we grew everything.
Oh wow.
In our backyard.
You're like the original hipsters.
Yeah, so I mean I grew up on 3 square home cooked meals a day.
Yeah.
And my mom is a fantastic cook.
Yeah.
And my dad is just as fantastic of a cook.
Yeah.
So I mean there was always good food in the house, and I remember growing up, being 5 years old, watching Martin Yan
Oh,
and
yeah.
Julia Child.
Yan can cook, and so can
Yan
you.
can cook, and so can you. Exactly. That was my favorite show of all time.
I remember watching that with my mom too.
On
like
PBS.
yeah,
like,
he'd do
broadcasting.
the really quick chopping, and I always was like super impressed.
Oh, absolutely. I was glued to the TV. And then, we had this one, I doubt anybody else outside of Louisiana was able to see it, but it was this one guy named Justin Wilson.
Okay.
He was the most ridiculous Cajun chef, pseudo chef, cook, whatever you want to call him.
Personality.
Yeah, and I mean he drank more wine than he cooked with. And I think he's passed away now, but probably due to liver problems. But it was those three I remember like it just happened yesterday.
Yeah.
Yan Can Cook and Julia Child and Justin Wilson.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to find some YouTube clips of this guy.
Yeah, it was. I mean, his accent was so thick, only people from the region could pick up on it.
That's amazing.
And it was just Channel 13 PBS back home, good old Alexandria. And the next thing I can remember is waking up the next morning and just something clicked in my head at that young age, and I was like, this is really interesting. I want to help my mom cook. And then that progressed into me standing on a milk crate with a knife that was just the size of me and helping my mom chop onions and celery and green bell peppers for a gumbo, or even making my own breakfast before I walked to school, because my elementary school was a block away from my house.
Nice.
So it just having the resources, one being growing everything, all produce and such in our backyard, and two, having my parents who were very familiar and knowledgeable about food and having good home cooked meals, I guess it just sparked something in me to kind of take this career path.
Yeah, that's a pretty good setting to fall in love with food, basically.
Absolutely. Whereas my sister, she didn't learn how to cook until she got married, and that's because she was forced into doing it. And I'm sure there were a lot of burnt dinners. Or suppers, as they're called.
It didn't wear off as much on her growing up.
Oh, no. She wanted nothing to do with it, whereas I was all in the middle.
Yeah. So how long until your first gig? Like, were you one of those, 15-year-old dishwashers? Or?
Absolutely not. I actually did not work in a professional kitchen until I went to culinary school.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's kind of a jump. I mean, just
but at the age of 13, maybe 14, I was like, you know what, this is what I want to do. Mm-hmm. And I was a freshman in high school when it just clicked, and where I really set in my head that this is what I want to do. I want to see where this takes me. And I was never the school type. I always did well in school. Gifted classes, honors classes, except for math. I was the only reject, and with gifted everything in remedial math. I think I took pre-algebra twice.
Hey.
But yet I was on a 12th grade English class.
Yeah.
Being 14 years old, it didn't make. I don't know, and I can barely speak the language as it is. So I don't get it. But so I went to high school for 2 years and was like, you know what, this sucks. I hate school, and I decided to omit myself from going to school, and I got an all online based homeschool program.
Oh, wow.
Where my mother didn't have to teach me anything. There was a central database. Every day was new curriculum, and I homeschooled myself.
Wow.
I did 11th and 12th grade.
Yeah.
In 9.5 months.
That's insane.
While working full time at a grocery store stocking groceries.
Okay, yeah.
So I graduated when I was 16.
Wow.
And had a full time job from the time I was 14. And saved up money, got accepted into culinary school whenever I was 17, locked in at that rate, but didn't go until 2 years later, and moved to Palm Beach, and that's kind of where it started.
Which culinary?
I went to Florida Culinary Institute.
Okay.
It is no longer called that. It's Nichols Culinary, or Lincoln Culinary. That's what it is. It's Lincoln Culinary now. But I did a 2-year program there.
Nice.
And worked the entire time while I was in school, and kind of the rest is history.
Did going to school, did it reinforce your wanting to be a chef, or was it going to the school part like maybe not as much? I don't know.
Well, by that time, because there was a 5-year gap from the time I decided I wanted to do this to the time I actually started to do this.
Yeah.
And from the very first day, even though the first 6 weeks of school was all lecture and there was no physical cooking and such like that, something about it just worked. Like, I was the only one at the front row, like, staring intently at the chef instructor and listening to every word he was saying and taking 1,000 notes that meant nothing. And, you know, it just, I don't know, it intrigued me. Yeah. Because I had already knew how to cook.
Yeah.
Because I grew up cooking, you know, alongside my mom and my dad.
Yeah.
But this was taking what I knew to a new level by finding out the history behind this business, as well as the technicalities that go along with the actual cooking procedures.
Yeah. It's one thing for, like, your parents to show you to do this because that's how it's done, but there's another person to be like, this is why this happens. Like, this is
and this is actually the way you're supposed to do it, not what you already know now. You know, not saying what you know is wrong, because you never want to tell your mother she's doing anything wrong.
Never.
I made that mistake once, and it's never happening again.
I will never tell my mother that anything I've had at a restaurant is ever better than anything she's made.
6 months into school, I was like, "You're doing everything wrong, Mom," and that pretty much proceeded to a rolling pin flying by my head.
That did not go over very well.
No.
So you go to school. Do you do like any type of internship while at school, or no?
Our school didn't have any externship stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you could work if you wanted to work, or you could just go to school if you wanted to go to school. It was really up to you. So, I mean, I was in school for probably 3 months before I got my first gig, and it was at a really fancy country club.
Oh, okay.
Called Ballin Isles Golf and Country Club. 3,000 members.
Nice.
3 huge golf courses. You know,
3 golf courses.
Championship tennis courts.
Yeah.
You know, the dues. Basically, like, you had to, in order to be a member at this place, you had to have property there.
Oh, jeez.
Whether you lived there or not, it didn't matter.
Yeah,
you just had to own real estate there.
Yeah.
And on top of owning there anywhere from $1 million to $30 million houses, you know, you're paying $250,000 a year in dues just to be a member. You know, like, this is like really high-end stuff.
Yeah.
And it was mind-blowing. I mean, I'm from a small town in Louisiana where, you know, I had 1/4 of an acre that we grew everything in.
Yeah.
And, you know, I hunted and fished and all that, to moving to Palm Beach, where there's half of Palm Beach Island could buy the state of Louisiana. You know, so it's like I couldn't comprehend what was going on.
Was there a little bit of a culture shock?
A little bit, to say the least. I was an outsider.
Nice.
And you know, and everybody that worked there was foreign.
Okay.
My chef was French, the pastry chef was Swiss, the garde manger chef was French. All the dishwashers were Haitian.
Wow.
And I didn't understand anything that was going on half the time. I just knew that I needed to make these salads like this. And that was kind of my thing. And I peeled a lot of carrots and potatoes and did a lot of chopping.
Yeah.
You know, lost a few fingertips and nails along the way. But, I mean, it was a great experience, and it was a seasonal job.
Okay, yeah.
So I only worked there for a short period of time. And then the big stepping stone for my career really kicked in, and I somehow managed to lock down a job working for the Ritz-Carlton.
Okay.
You know, I was 6 months into school.
Oh, wow.
And got a job as, you know, bottom shelf cook in the banquet department, and I worked for the company for right at 3 years between 3 different properties, just kind of going around and helping as necessary.
Mm-hmm.
And it that really solidified that, you know what, this is cool. This is kind of what I want to do.
Yeah.
And also, really, the foundation was set, but that's where the structure started to be built.
Yeah. That's where you started to put in, like, your 10,000 hours, so to speak, or just like that repetition.
Yeah. I mean, it was unbelievably busy in the banquet department. You know, we had a very small staff. And we would do, you know, $400 for breakfast, lunch, and dinner 6 days a week, or up to $950 if the entire ballroom was filled. And we're not talking like, chicken piccata and green beans and mashed potatoes. I mean, this is a 5-star, 5-diamond property.
Yeah.
So, we had, 8 to 10 components per plate.
Wow.
And, our plate up line consisted of about 30 people pulled from every department that had availability to just... Their only job was to put one thing on the plate and pass it to your left, and it was insane at the scope of things, like our one of our chicken dishes for the multi-course banquet meal, because we had buffets and we had plated meals and stuff like that. Yeah. But I mean, like, I remember a chicken dish, real simple chicken dish for the hotel was, $95 a person, and that, of course, included a salad and a dessert.
Yeah, but...
But, I mean, it's like when you... thinking in my mindset of what I'm from and what I'm used to, $95 could buy you, 100 live chickens that you could do whatever you wanted with. So, I mean... Did
that wear off pretty quick? Like, that shock of... Like...
Oh, absolutely. Within my first year of being technically in the business, the shock value was gone, and, like, I didn't think like I did whenever I started.
Yeah.
I was able to rationalize the eccentricity, I guess you could say, of things.
Yeah.
And, my chef was probably one of the best chefs I've ever worked for in my life, as well as the most difficult chef I've ever worked for in my life. And that was good that I got him from the beginning.
Yeah.
Because that really toughened me up and gave me the thick skin that I needed to be able to survive in the business thus far.
There does seem to be like those two like mentalities of like executive chefs, like the ones who are the yellers and screamers, and the ones who are like literally like picking up your hands basically and like just showing you like...
This guy here, he was extremely talented.
Yeah.
And he started as a pot washer at a Ritz-Carlton. At this time, we're talking 2004.
Okay.
And it was 20 years prior to that he started as a dishwasher. No formal training.
Wow.
Just kind of worked his way up, and he was the executive banquet chef for a 5-star, 5-diamond property that, in that property's existence, even till this day, 9 years later, has never been less than 5-star, 5-diamond.
Wow.
And he was a yeller and a screamer, and my most vivid memory of him was my 4th day in the kitchen. Mm-hmm. We were doing a plated meal for approximately 450 people.
Yeah.
And it was my job, only my job, during plate up to put 7 perfectly trimmed and blanched and cooked and hot haricot vert on the plate, flat on the plate, nothing stacked, nothing stacked on top of each other or anything, at the 2 o'clock position of the plate, and then pass it to the left. That was my only job. And I was like, you know what? I'm pretty sure I can do this. And, 100 so plates go by and no problems and feeling pretty good. And 4 days in the kitchen, right?
Yeah.
So at this point, I had only been professionally in the business since September of 2003, and this was January 7th of 2004.
You have the date.
I have the date because this day will live in infamy. And I tell this story to everybody I know that wants to hear a good story about how a small southern redneck got scared to death by an enormous, giant, corn-fed black man from Virginia. And so, a couple 100 plates go by, and one of the beans rolls like a 1/4 of an inch. He moves the bean back with his finger and looks at me, and the look is just like, don't let that happen again. I got the memo, More plates go by. 2 beans roll the next time. And I'm shaking at this point because I wanted to pull the plate back, but obviously he was working next to me just because he wanted to keep an eye on me because I'm the new guy. And he's I'm 5'8" on a good day. He's 6'4", 290 pounds of solid muscle. Like, he was a big guy.
Yeah.
And, never smiled, never said anything. And if when he talked, you knew somebody was about to get hurt. Emotionally, not physically.
Yeah.
But emotionally and mentally, you were going to be damaged. So, 2 beans roll. All of a sudden, he takes his huge hand and he takes the plate and flips it off the table, and it bounces, crashes off of the back wall and lands in the fryer. And I have no idea what to say, and everybody else just keeps working because apparently this is normal. And I'm looking around and I'm like, does anybody see a problem with this? And he proceeds to pick me up by my chef coat off the ground with one arm and throws me in the walk-in cooler and shuts the door, shuts the fan off, just, I guess, to make me either sweat or just so everybody else can hear what's about to happen, and proceeds to give me a verbal lashing that I can only recall.
Like your mom?
No. I would have rathered have taken all of the yelling I got for the 19 years I had been alive at that point on this planet. Everything I'd ever gotten from my parents, I would rather that happen all at once than what I got from him. He basically told me that I was a useless piece of shit, and I would never amount to anything, and I wasted all of the government's money going to school because I am a waste of space, and I should not even be allowed in his presence to breathe the air that he is breathing.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and that kind of talk went on for about 5 minutes, which seemed like 3 hours. And needless to say, I left the cooler with my tail tucked between my legs, and I felt about 3 inches tall.
Yeah.
And I somehow managed to finish the day, and I left in such a bad mood. I mean, we parked off-site because the property was, right on the waterfront, right on the ocean. So we had an off-site parking lot that a shuttle brought us back and forth to. Mm-hmm. And I remember getting in my car, and I left the biggest donuts and tire marks and in the parking lot just leaving. I could not wait to get out of there. And, 4 days in, I got that. Yeah. And you know what? I woke up the next day and I was like, you know what? This asshole is not going to do this to me again. And if he does, there's going to be a reason behind it. I'm going to prove this guy wrong.
Yeah.
So
I
went back and I worked for him for years after that.
Yeah, that's a very a mature way to handle that.
I mean, I honestly at that point I was scared if I didn't go back to work, that he was going to come and find me.
Good point.
So I mean, it was kind of like a self-realization that, you know what, I had heard the stories about how you needed to be tough to deal with stuff like this, but I had never experienced it until that point. But another part of me was like, this guy scares the hell out of me, and I just want, if I do have a last date with him, and I'm sure it will happen at some point, I want it to be on good terms, because I don't want him to come and find me.
Yeah. Did he get easier over time on you, or much as you can, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, once he realized that I came back, and I never mentioned that ever again, and he obviously saw that I was trying even harder to, to have this not happen. Yeah, I mean, we became fairly close, and up until, I would say, probably 4 or 5 months ago, I lost contact with him. Yeah. But, I mean, I kept up with him at least once or twice a month.
Nice.
Just to see what he's doing, but I have no idea what he's doing now.
You said that it was always 5-star, 5 diamond.
Yeah.
Was that a big thing working at a place like that? If you knew that there was reviews coming or anything like that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, everything, the whole place basically went on lockdown because, I mean, as much as
during the review period,
as much as the mobile and AAA people are as incognito and have as many aliases as they want.
Yeah.
There's still enough power within the company to know when they're going to get there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a lot of things. Because, I mean, not a lot of people understand that. It does not take much to lose a star or a diamond.
Really?
Let's for example say, because this actually happened at a competing resort in Palm Beach the same year.
Yeah.
That was also 5-star, 5 diamond, but lost a star for this exact reason. The mobile or AAA person was checking into their room and asked the front desk person where the restroom was, and that person pointed around the corner and said, the bathroom is here, off to the left, blah, blah, blah. That right there will automatically lose a star, because in an establishment like this, you have every authority to stop what you're doing to make sure that the guest needs are met.
Yeah.
And if they have to go to the bathroom, you physically walk them to the bathroom and show them where it is.
Wow.
I mean, you don't have to go pull their pants down or anything for them, but, like, you have to physically show them.
Yeah.
And, working for the Ritz-Carlton, it didn't matter what position you were in.
Yeah.
Didn't matter what your job title was. If you happened to run into a guest that needed something, you had what they referred to as empowerment to make it happen, regardless of the situation.
So if you were like on your way to do something else, you just dropped it.
I could be working an action station, flipping omelets for 1,000 people, and somebody asked me, I can't have this type of water. Can I have this type of water? I don't want still. I want sparkling, and it needs to be aqua panna. Even if we don't have aqua panna in the hotel, but the Walgreens across the street does, I can physically stop my job, go to Walgreens and buy a bottle of aqua panna and bring it to them.
That's insane.
Like, it's that type of empowerment. Like, there's no questions asked.
That's crazy.
As long as it's within moral and ethical responsibilities, of course. Like,
I need a pound of cocaine.
Yeah, I couldn't do that, or I could not go fetch a stripper or a hooker or anything like that. I mean, probably could have, within reason.
Within reason.
But they operate under those type of rules and standards, and as much as I hate to say it, I'm not anti-corporate America.
Yeah.
I've just had some really bad corporate food service gigs in the past, but I would go back and work for the Ritz-Carlton any day of the week, because they have their shit together and they know exactly what they're doing.
Nice.
Which is why they are one of the number one luxury hotel chains in the company.
Yeah.
I mean, in the company, in the world.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're highly respected.
Yeah, the name means a lot.
The name is synonymous, and but the major thing for me was, as far as culinary goes, is they offered me so much ability to learn.
Yeah.
Because, Palm Beach is very seasonal. The banquet kitchen was not always as crazy busy as I made it sound.
Mm-hmm.
And, I could take a sabbatical and go work somewhere else.
Yeah.
Within the company or even outside of the company, I could take a leave of absence and disperse my hours amongst the rest of the crew and go do other things, which I did once.
Yeah.
Or I could go work in the butcher shop or the pastry shop, or work an overnight bake shop shift, or go work in garde manger, or fill in some spots at the fine dining restaurant or the casual dining restaurant. Like, I got to work in every single outlet within that hotel when they needed help and when we weren't busy.
Yeah, yeah.
So it really was able to round out my experience.
Yeah, yeah. Was there ever like an itch growing to work in like more of like an actual like restaurant, like an independent place, or? Well,
once I got my taste, because like I started out working at a country club in their dinner-only restaurant.
Okay.
But I was very limited in what I was actually doing.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what the hell I was doing anyway, so it was fine. And, whenever I got to the Ritz-Carlton, I went straight into the banquet department, which is obviously not a, restaurant scenario.
Yeah, yeah.
But I did move around, and I worked in the extremely high-end fine dining restaurant, which was way outside of my league at that point. But I learned a ton.
Yeah, you got to have those experiences.
And then I worked in their casual dining restaurant, and that's when I realized, what this kind of hustle and bustle and pace was kind of fun. The day seemed to go by faster, and I sweat a little more.
Yeah, you got the tickets coming out.
Yeah, and then the nightmares of dreaming about the ticket machine started to happen, and then I was like, man, I should have stayed in the banquet department. But yeah, so I worked for the Ritz-Carlton Corporation, like I said, based out of Palm Beach. I did a stint at their Jupiter private residence and golf and country club outlet, which is an entirely new world of Ritz-Carlton.
Yeah.
That goes beyond just hotel. It's, people can buy houses, and it's a country club, but it's Ritz-Carlton.
Interesting.
So they get all the same flair of being in a hotel in their own house. So, I mean, that's a whole nother world. So I helped them when they needed help, when they were getting their feet off of the ground.
Yeah.
And then I transferred to the hotel in San Juan, Puerto Rico.
Okay, yeah.
And I got my real taste at that point of what, number one, a Ritz-Carlton is all about, and two, what a really high-end fine dining restaurant was all about, because that's what I went into and that's what I left at.
Yeah.
And it was intense. Very intense.
Yeah.
And but I loved it.
Yeah.
And from that point on, I pretty much just kind of stayed in the restaurant sector.
Yeah.
For a while. And ended up hitting, a private chef gig at one point for a short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And didn't really pan out because those people were crazy. And I was their demo chef. Like, they had never had a private chef before, so they didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what to expect, and they handled everything completely wrong. And I'm sure I'm probably to blame too, because at that point I didn't know what this was supposed to be about.
Yeah, yeah.
Either, but they didn't. Either way, they were still crazy. And so, and then, I went back to the country club scene, and then into more independent restaurants, and then corporate restaurants, and I've just kind of been all over the place. I don't even know.
Yeah.
Well, I can't even keep track of what the hell I've done over the last 10 years.
Well, how did you make your way to Buffalo, basically?
Well, I left Tampa to move to Buffalo because I got a job working for Delaware North Companies.
Okay, yeah. Buffalo's very familiar with Delaware North.
Yeah, while I was living in Tampa, I got a job at the St. Pete Times Forum.
Oh, the Tampa Bay Lightning, right?
That's the home of the Lightning. So
okay.
I got a job there as executive sous chef for the club level suites, and that just happened to be the year the Lightning was purchased by a new owner. So there was a lot of political red tape, and this was at the end of the hockey season. So they postponed my job from, at that point, 2 weeks later, I was supposed to start, to the beginning of the next hockey season, which was like 6.5 months away.
Oh.
So I went from having a job to not having a job. And
jeez.
I guess I had made some sort of impression on the executives within the arena, because they didn't really ask me. They just sent all of my over the phone and person-to-person interview paperwork and application and all that stuff. They send it off to Delaware North Corporate, which is here downtown in Buffalo.
Yeah.
And the very next day I got a phone call saying, hey, sorry about you not working here, but there may be another job within the company available.
Yeah.
It may require you to relocate. Are you interested? And I'm like, yeah, why not? I don't really have anything going for me right now, so let's see where this goes.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, well, you'll get a phone call in a few days outlining a little more details of the job.
Yeah.
And I got the phone call, and I was told that it was to be a, personal and private chef for a family up here in Buffalo that just so happens to own the company. And I was like, oh, this is that's kind of big and kind of scary.
It's a pretty big gig there.
Yeah, so I went through 3 months of hardcore interview processes, background checks, cooking practicals.
Wow.
Back and forth to Buffalo a few times, and ended up getting the job and moved up here and liked Buffalo enough and decided to stay.
Nice. So even before we get into that job, you pretty much have always lived in warm weather climates.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
so,
I had actually never seen snow in my life until 2012.
Jeez.
No, retract. 2011. 2011 winter was the first snow I'd ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And apparently that was a fairly mild winter.
That was one of the best winters we've ever had, too.
Yeah, and I didn't know. I just knew it was cold.
Yeah.
And my dogs apparently really loved the snow, even though they had never seen it either.
That's fantastic.
And,
but there's no part of you that was like, Buffalo's really, really cold, though.
Oh, absolutely. I was freezing, but it was such a dramatic change of pace, and I have realized that I would rather be cold than hot.
Really?
Yeah.
I could see that.
Well, I mean, back home.
Oh my God, the humidity! I can't even imagine.
Oh yeah, I mean, in July and August back home, it's 102, 103, 105 degrees with 85% humidity.
Jeez.
Like it's that type of hot to where you take a shower and you dry off and you're still wet. Like it's disgusting.
God,
like you perpetually feel disgusting. So yeah, I would rather be in 0-degree weather.
That makes sense. I'm with you on that one.
Just so hot that you just want to die.
I'm with you on that one. So when you took the gig up here to be the personal chef, was there any part of you that like you were still yearning to be in the restaurant scene, or were you ready to take like a little bit of a break and do this thing?
I had done so much at this point already.
Yeah.
And in so many different aspects of this business.
Yeah.
I was still trying to feel my way out of where I wanted to be.
Yeah, yeah.
It was like, like I said, I worked in hotels and independently owned restaurants and corporate restaurants and country clubs and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But this sector I had been in before just hadn't really tapped into its full potential.
Yeah, yeah.
And I did not know if I was going to like it or wasn't going to like it, but I knew it was something new to me, so I was really intrigued and really ready to do it.
Yeah, yeah. I think like maybe somebody would originally think that it would be a pretty easy gig, like to be a personal chef. But
no way.
I know. Like you've told me in the past, like it's pretty intense.
It's
like
the absolute most intense thing I've ever done in my life. I mean, you just got to kind of look at it in this aspect. You've got a family, because like when you work in a restaurant, you are cooking for the masses.
Yeah.
And you have the opportunity to please the majority of the people the majority of the time.
Yeah, yeah.
When you're working for a family, they're very particular on what they want, and you're not always going to win.
You can't be like...
You have to be able to understand that, you know what, if I got 6 people for dinner tonight, it's probably going to be the same 6 tomorrow and the same 6 the next day, and so forth and so on.
Yeah, and you also probably can't be like, listen, I learned in class that this is the right way that you cook. It's like...
No, they don't.
Yeah, it's like, oh no, that's great, but I would like it.
They're paying you for a service. And... regardless if you think you're doing it right or not, it doesn't matter. Your opinion matters to a point.
Yeah, yeah.
But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's what they want. That's what they're going to get.
Yeah.
So
was that like a kind of an interesting thing to get used to? I mean, technically, every chef is making food for somebody who wants it their way.
Correct.
It's just you don't have that one-to-one interaction.
Like when you go into a restaurant, for example, and you sit down and you look at a menu, the food that you're ordering is an interpretation by the chef or the owner or whoever is in charge of preparing the menu and offering that dish. So when you go into a restaurant, you expect to eat that particular item. It may not be done the way that you would do it or you would think it would be done, but it's an interpretation. The difference with working for a family is that you have to be inside of their head and know what they want and do it the way that they want, because that's what they're paying you for. So, if, for example, if they say they want lasagna, I've got 1,000 ways of making lasagna, but I need to, ask them, how they would like it, then the vague information that you usually get, you have to somehow turn that into exactly what they want. And a lot of the times, it works. Some of the times, it doesn't. And, another big thing that comes up with, private chef jobs is the details that are involved. Because it's not like you just go in and you cook.
Yeah.
Like, I cooked, I cleaned, I shopped, I table service, wine service, the whole 9 yards. Now, in a lot of places, there is a full support staff that goes along with that kind of does that. And I had that at my disposal too when the parties got bigger than a single person could handle. But for a typical night of cooking for 2 to 4 to 6 people, it was all on me. I turned the music on and I dimmed the lighting and lit the candles, and
That's
chilled the white wine and got the red wine at the appropriate temperature and picked out the china and the silver and, did the whole thing.
That's pretty.
So, I mean, there's a lot more to it than just cooking.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean,
that's kind of that's cool because you don't. I mean, that's one of the that's super unique. Like
you don't do that on
No.
When I go into work now, I don't even have that anywhere near my thought process. I go in and I know what my job is ahead of me. I've got a list of things that have to be done.
Yeah.
Before we open, and that's what I do, and that's the end of it.
Yeah.
But there it's a constant cycle working for a family, and you have to constantly push the envelope to do things differently.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you do the same thing all the time, you're cooking for the same people, it's going to get old and monotonous, and they're going to hate you.
Yeah.
And that's the last thing you want.
Exactly.
Because if they don't like you don't have a job. So, it's a lot more. It's very physical of a job.
Yeah.
But it's a lot more mental than anything else. And you have to be in the right frame of mind and have the right type of personality in order for it to actually work or not.
Yeah, I could see that. I can see that for sure.
I find myself to be a fairly easygoing person.
Yeah,
and
I'd agree with that.
At this point in my life, I've dealt with a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
positive and mostly negative.
Yeah.
So I've got the thick skin that you need in order to deal with. This fillet is not the way I wanted it.
Yeah.
It is 110 degrees rare instead of 107 degrees rare that I want.
I see.
Yeah. So it's for a lack of a better word, being a private chef is a total mindfuck.
It sounds like it. Yeah. I believe you.
But I learned more about myself.
Yeah.
During my long-term, career with them than I have in any other aspect of this business.
Yeah.
And I found that to be incredibly interesting.
Mm-hmm.
For one, that I was able to learn more about me.
Yeah.
And rather than learning more about them and this type of, industry or this sector of the industry.
Yeah.
And, I really enjoy the private sector, and I don't work for them full time anymore, but I'm still on call and I still go out there as they need me. I've been doing that now for the last couple of seasons that I have not been with them full time.
Yeah. That's nice that you still can dabble back in whenever.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm a busybody. I can't.
As I know, trying to set up this podcast.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, I already work 60, 65, 70 hours a week at my normal job, and any days off that I have, if they need me, I go.
Yeah.
And money doesn't hurt.
No.
So
let's skip to where you're currently at Seabar right now. And you work at the sushi station or the bar, I guess you could call it.
Yeah, I work at the sushi bar.
Okay, that's got to be like a new experience. Like, have you worked with sushi before?
I dabbled in sushi years ago, and it actually goes all the way back again to the Ritz-Carlton in Palm Beach.
Yeah,
there was a full-blown sushi bar in the lobby.
Yeah,
that was operated by one guy, and this guy, his name is Joe. He has 4 extraordinarily successful sushi bars in West Palm Beach now, as well as a Thai restaurant and some other stuff.
Yeah.
But he was Nobu's apprentice for 10 years.
Oh wow.
So I mean, this guy, he's a real deal when it comes to this type of cuisine.
Yeah.
And I got the chance to kind of trail him a few times while working at the hotel, and in school we dabbled on sushi for like 2 days, I think. And it was just really enough to learn how to cook rice, which after working with this guy and now working at Seabar, the way we did it in school was completely wrong. Or not, I guess not necessarily wrong, just not appropriate for massive, sushi bar consumption.
Yes, Seabar is pretty busy.
yeah, that's a whole other topic. But yeah, so I dabbled in that years ago, and then had some family stuff I had to take care of back in Louisiana. So after I left the Ritz-Carlton in San Juan, I moved back home.
Okay.
Take care of some family stuff. And there was a restaurant that my wife was working at that was a fine dining restaurant for the area. And randomly it had sushi too. And there was a little Japanese lady that had been previously doing the sushi there, but she left and went back home for whatever reason. And at that point, there was absolutely no sushi in my hometown, except for at this place. And there wasn't a sushi bar. It was like they got sashimi grade fish in and all of the appropriate components to create, a small selection of rolls and nigiri sushi and sashimi presentations and such like that. So it was more of kind of a chef's tasting sort of thing. There was no menu involved. So my wife told the owner of the restaurant that I had some experience, and I currently was not working in a restaurant at that point. I was working, in the construction business with a friend of mine that owned a business, and was looking for something else to do because obviously I can't sit still. So I went and did that for a year, and I just sourced great fish.
Nice.
And when somebody would ask, hey, is there anybody doing sushi tonight? I would go out to the table and say, these are the fish that I have.
Nice.
Tell me what you want, or I'll just make you something.
That's pretty cool.
So it was very low key.
Not,
not over the top.
Not what's going on now.
As, at the time that I was doing it, it was even though it was very basic, it was so far beyond the reaches of what that particular restaurant and the clients had already come to, that came there to eat a good meal and maybe have a few pieces of fish or a roll or something like that. It was so far beyond what they had already expected. And I guess it was just because of, the very first sushi experience I ever got was, watching a Nobu apprentice, that knows exactly what the hell he's doing and how to properly break down fish and make the rice and all of everything that goes along with it. Apparently I was doing something way over the top, and I was thinking it was completely basic. And I created a pretty good following.
Nice.
And, that lasted about a year, I would say. And then I got scouted to go take over another restaurant that was a competing restaurant with the one that I was working at. And they were offering me, an executive chef title and, massive overhaul, new staff, new menu, kind of new everything, because it was hemorrhaging money, by the truckload, and they needed competent and capable people. And my hometown is not a place where it's not a mecca for food and for people in this business. It's a dead zone. Like if you're not an Outback Steakhouse or a Red Lobster, which didn't even survive in my hometown. The Red Lobster closed down when I was still a child, and or an Applebee's or a Chili's or any corporate franchise like that. Those are the ones that are in it for the long haul, because that's what people like there.
They have the 1 hour waits on the weekends.
Yeah, other than like home cooked meals. Like they're. Anybody that's in this business, if you go back to my hometown, you're going to go there to die, essentially, in this business. Not physically, but the business life of you will die. Because there's nothing there for you. So this restaurant needed some help. They hired me. I came in and applied what knowledge I had at the time, and I was 24 maybe at the time, given an executive chef title. 5 years out of culinary school. Or 5 years since I started culinary school, so it was really 3 years out of culinary school since graduation. That was, my ego inflated to the point of no return. I became an unbearable asshole, and I thought I was the best thing since individually sliced and packaged cheese. I needed that for one reason, because that at one point came back and bit me so hard in the ass that it snapped me back into reality.
That's good.
So, you know, I needed to rise and fall and hit rock bottom, so to speak. And because if that had not have happened, I don't know where I would be. I probably wouldn't even be in this business anymore.
Yeah. But
I went to...
you actually had some pretty significant sushi.
Yeah, I mean, I did. And I mean, the extent of my sushi knowledge was, you know, working with this guy for a total of maybe 2 weeks out of the course of a couple of years being at that property.
Yeah.
And not actually physically getting to make anything.
Just watching.
It was just shadowing.
Yeah, or shadowing,
Yeah, so I mean, I got to stand there and I got to watch what he did, and he occasionally let me stir the rice as it was cooling.
Yeah.
You know, but I just took all that knowledge and I just buried it in my brain and was able to recall it when I needed it.
Yeah.
And, you know, and as like the months went by as I was doing this back home, I got better and better and better and better and better at it.
Yeah.
And then I went on a 6.5 year sabbatical of doing it until I started working at Seabar.
Yeah.
And it was a total relearn.
Yeah, it wasn't so much a bike where you just got back into it, or
you never forget how to do it. You just forget how to finesse it.
I see.
And you know, the ways that I was shown versus the way that I was doing it when I was on my own is not the ways that we do it at Seabar.
Yeah.
And the way that it's done there is done very well.
Yeah.
And you know, we have incredible product.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely incredible quality of product. And a solid staff behind, you know, what happens there.
That kitchen's got some serious skills in there.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've got good talent in that place, and I mean, it can only be that way because of just the amount of business that's done, and the amount of work that goes into just, you know, getting the prep done. For, you know, all of the intricacies of the menu, whether it be from the kitchen or from the sushi bar. You know, I mean, people think it's just a matter of cooking rice and throwing it on a piece of seaweed and rolling it up. If it was only that easy.
How do you like the part where you get to interact with the people? Because, I mean, that's kind of a unique thing about your job is that most chefs just they're thrown in the back.
Right.
You are literally
I am
a face of the business, and you're kind of expected to engage with the people.
Oh yeah, I find myself to be a fairly social person.
Yeah,
and I say fairly very lightly because I love to talk and interact, and you know I think we're coming on minute 50, so I think I mean basically you're saying I've already talked way too much.
No, not at all. No, but it was very easy to get here.
Yeah, so I mean it's like I enjoy talking with people, and I find it very rewarding to be able to speak with that person face to face and not necessarily talk them into something, but give them suggestions.
Yeah.
On, you know, what my favorite fish is and what flavor profiles I like, and getting to experiment with the guest, and then, you know, physically watching them take their chopsticks and put a piece of food in their mouth and eat it, and seeing the immediate expression of whether they love it or they hate it.
That's awesome.
You know, it's gratifying because when you work in a hot kitchen and you don't get to see any of the actual people you serve.
You're just seeing the plates not coming back.
Right. You know, the plate and the few plates that you see come back, you know, either have food on them or don't, and you have to wait for the server to tell you if they liked it or if they didn't like it. 99% of the time they don't tell you because they don't really care. And, you know, but actually getting to see somebody enjoy their food and then talk to them as they're eating it and after they've eaten it.
Yeah.
You know, and then telling you that they can't wait to come back again to try something else. And, you know, that's very rewarding for me. I enjoy that part just as much as actually making it.
Nice.
So,
that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think I'm a pretty good fit.
Yeah.
for that. I mean, I'm not that bad of a looking guy, and I get to talk with people, to a point. I can't just sit there and have conversations.
Yeah.
And I don't, because 90% of the time it's so busy I don't even get to talk. But I get to talk to people, and serve them great food that I would absolutely have no problem eating myself.
Yeah.
And because, I mean, this is another story that I'm not going to get into, but there's a lot of places that the cooks are not passionate about what they produce.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't necessarily want to eat it themselves.
Yeah.
And I feel very strongly about the product that we serve there. Nice. I work there and I still want to eat there.
Well, I've been there several times, and it's still one of my favorite places to grab a bite to eat. And I enjoy when I see you there because you're always smiling and running around. It's been entertaining. But
yeah. It is. It's like dinner and a show when you sit on the sushi bar side.
Exactly.
Everybody should sit over there.
I think so too. Well, Ken, thank you so much for coming down here, man. This is awesome. I'm so glad we got to do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Finally. And I will be stopping by Seabar, and I encourage everyone else to sit at the sushi bar, say hi to you.
Absolutely, I'm always there.
I can attest to that. I see you there every time I go into Inn. Every Monday, you're cleaning up your station. But thank you again so much. This is really fun.
It was a great time. Thank you.